Hi everyone, it's Tamara here again with another card making tutorial. This time I'm making a card with the Micest Friend Stamp Set from My Favorite Things for the current Colouring Club Challenge, which is yummy. And for me, yummy definitely revolves around cheese. So as soon as I saw this stamp set, I knew it was for me because I'm definitely into cheese, and I just love all these little outfits with the chef little outfits and hats that these mice are wearing. We'll be also using the Postage Collage Die from Waffle Flower, including the stencil, and I'm going to be using some COPIC Express at cardstock. I was going to use some masking paper and do some ink blending, but in the end I actually just do some COPIC colouring for the outside rather than do ink blending. So we'll grab out our Misti stamping tool and the stencil, pop that into our front, and now I'm just going to work out where I want all my stamps to go. So I'm just going to have the small piece of cheese and the sentiment up the top, and down the bottom I'm just going to use this cheese on a platter, but I'm just wanting to concentrate on the cheese portion, so only a small part of that platter will show. Then I thought this little mouse looked like he was kind of wanting to grab the cheese, so I thought he'd be perfect down the bottom. And initially I was going to put this little chef with his little outfit on the left, but I thought this little guy looks very cute, so he's going on the left instead. So now I'm just going to place everything in my Misti, and because I haven't used this stamp set before, I just give all the stamps a quick rub before I stamp them out, and I'm just using my Memento Tuxedo black ink. Now we're going to get our full mouse stamped out now. So I like to give him a couple of stamps to make sure we get a very good impression. So I actually did end up doing him about 3 times, and then we'll get all our other ones in. So I'm just going to concentrate. I do want to show this little outfit that he's wearing, so I'm only going to show part of his little hat, because most of that will show up on the one that's standing next to him. So I just want that little outfit showing. So I do end up giving him a double stamp, and that gives a really good impression. But because I don't want to transfer any ink anywhere, I'm just going to grab out just a chamois that I keep to clean off my stamps and just give that a wipe over as well. But I actually do get a little bit, so just be very careful. I think I actually put some onto my stamp set, so it did put a little bit of black ink down the bottom, but thankfully it's far enough down that it won't get in the way of my panel once I've cut it out. Now with this cheese, it will go over the edge, so I've just popped a little bit of purple tape there to protect the other square. So I'm going to stamp out that cheese on the platter and get that double stamped, and then we can just remove that piece. Now I accidentally didn't stop my recording, and then it stopped it when I actually did the stamping of the next little mouse, which is down the bottom. So I do apologize that I didn't show that being stamped out. But now I'm just going to grab out the die and just work out where I need it. So I'm just kind of using that stencil as a guide, and that way I can work out where I want to run that through my die cutting machine, so that we get a perfect cutout of this Postage Collage Die. Now we'll grab out our Copic markers, and I'm just going to do the little outfits of the little chef hats and the little chef jacket. I will have all the colors just kind of listed or showing up on the top left hand corner, but they will also be listed in the description box below for you. So I do want to still make these look white, but I want to make sure that there's enough shadow so that it is showing a little bit of dimension to these hats, obviously where they fold over and puff out. And it always makes things look more white when you've got some shadows in it. It doesn't look like you've actually forgot to color them. So I'm just going through my C markers. So my darkest marker will be C5. Blend that out with the C3, the C1, and then the C00. Now I did all the other chef hats because I did them exactly the same off camera, and I'm now going to just show you how I do this shirt. So I'm just kind of initially putting in my shadows with my C00, and then I go in with my darker C5 and now C3 to blend that out. And just obviously where anything kind of will throw a shadow, I do forget that I need to put a little bit of shadow underneath where his little bow tie, this little knot tie is coming out, and also under those buttons. So I do come in after I finish with this C00 to pop a little bit of shadow underneath that little bow tie as well. So now I'll bring in that C5, put that shadow from under there, blend that out with the C3, the C1, and then we'll blend that out with the C00 into that white space, just making sure that we keep plenty of white space in there. So now we'll organize some coloring of the ears. So I'm just using E95 and E93 as the kind of pinky brown tone. And then I will put in a little bit of W3 just as a little bit of a kind of shadow color where those ears are kind of tucked in behind the head there. And then I'll blend that out with the E95 and then blend that finally out with the E93 to fully cover those ears. And I'll do the same on the other two mice off camera as well. Now, because I use the C markers for the little hats and jackets, I'm going to use my W markers to do the little mouse so that they're nice and light grey. So I've gone in initially with my lightest colour, and now I'm going to blend out with the W5 as my darkest shadow colour. So wherever anything is kind of at the bottom or throwing a shadow at the back, I'm going to pop in some shadow with that darker color, blend that out with the W4. So I'm just going to slowly work down from my W markers to get a nice kind of light grey mouse. So it's just slowly blending that out. Go in now with the W3 to blend out a little bit further into that white space, just using little flicking motion so that we've got a nice amount of space to be able to blend in with the other colors that we're using with the W2 next. So just flicking that out into our highlight, and then we'll bring in that first color that we used, the W1, to finish coloring that into that highlight. And as I said, I will do the other mice the exact same way. I will show you the one down the bottom because he's a little bit different with the way he's kind of sitting in with his ears. So I did bring that W1 actually into that ear to kind of make sure that there's no kind of harsh line between our E93 and 95 and the grey of his body or his face. So now I'm going in with the W5 marker to set my shadows, blend that out with the W4 marker. Just a little bit on those ears, and obviously where that's thrown underneath his arm, underneath that little necktie, not forgetting his little tail there as well. We'll go in with our W3 to blend that out. So he's kind of leaning over to that right hand side, so that's why I've made that right side in shadow. And we'll go in now with the W2 to slowly work into that white space. And then our final color again is the W1 to blend that out. And go into that little stomach area and the tops of those arms. So that's all of the mouse coloring done, but I wanted to kind of make just two colors for this with yellows and grays. So I'm going to be making their little neckties the same yellow that I'll be coloring the cheese. And also we'll be coloring the background with those yellow colors as well as grey colors. So I'm trying to keep using the same colors throughout the entire thing, so you're not grabbing a whole bunch of markers. So we've got their little neckties done now, and now we'll get our cheese done. So I just did a base color, and now I did want to throw a bit of shadow in where those little holes are in the cheese. So that's why I brought in the BV31. And then I blend over that with the Y26, blend that out with the Y21, the Y11 next, and our original color, the Y00. We'll do exactly the same with the little buttons. So I'm just going to use the two colors, Y26 and Y11, because they're quite small. And now we'll get a base layer of color onto our bottom cheese, again using the same colors, the BV 31 down where it's quite in shadow down the bottom and into those little holes in the cheese. Go over that with the Y26 and then just blend that out with the Y21, slowly working into our highlight space, just working in those little flicking motions again to make sure we've got a nice smooth blend. Bring in our Y11 to blend that out, and finish with our original color, the Y00, for our highlight color. And then I'm going to do the stars exactly the same because they're obviously made out of cheese as well. And I did realize I missed a part of the ear there, so I've just gone back in with my W markers for that. Now I'm going to do the noses of the mice, exactly with the same pinks that I use for the ears, but just leaving a little bit of white space on the top so it looks like they've got a little bit of shine to their noses. It's very hard to see actually on the screen, but it's more noticeable in real life. So I'm just going again with the same colors I've used for the cheeses, with the V31, Y26, Y21, Y11, and Y00. And now I wanted to create like a little board underneath this piece of cheese to match in with the board or the little kind of tray that's underneath our other cheese. So I'm just using my E markers, E42 just to set where I want everything, E49 as my darkest color to throw a little bit of shadow from the cheese. Blend that out with the E44 and then go back in with that E42 again. So I'm just going to make some little lines to kind of define that board a little bit better. So I'm just using that E49 marker to set that board fully out and just reinforce those little grain lines that appear in the wood. Blend that out with my E44 and the E42 once again. And I'm going to use those same markers to make a little kind of wooden tray underneath our cheese, just kind of to make sure we're kind of keeping all the colors quite simple. So I've thrown in my original shadows with my E42, then gone in with my E47 as the darkest marker, blend that out with the E44, and then blend that out with our E42 again, just working into that highlight. Now just going to use some T markers for both the little whisk and the bases of our cheese candles, cheese stars, and blend that out with our final color, the T1. Now I'm just going to show two of the colorings around the objects. So one, I'm going to be using the yellow markers around the mice because I thought they're grey. I wanted to kind of make them pop with a little bit of yellow because they've only got a little bit of yellow in those neckties. I thought the yellow would work really well and match in with our cheeses. So I went in with our darkest color, the BV31, to set a shadow, went over that with the Y26, blended that out with the Y21, blend that with our Y11, just flicking out into the edges of our little postage stamps, and finish off with the Y00 and just kind of following along with that stitch line that forms the border around that image. So I did the same for the other two, and now I'm just going to show you around this piece of cheese. I'm going to do the grey markers around that. So C3 is my darkest color. Blend that out with the W1, the W0, and then finally the W00 to fully do that. And I'll do the same with that little cheese down the bottom. Now for the sentiment, I wanted to match in, because it's going to be stamped out in black ink, I thought it will look really nice on that kind of yellow background to match in with the backgrounds around our mice. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I did this with those same colors, initially setting out the shadow area with our BV31, going over with our darkest yellow, the Y26, just having little flicking motions up into that white card space. Then we'll blend that out with the Y21, again just flicking up into that white cardstock so we can use our Y11 next to blend that out. And then our final color will be our Y00, and that's going to put a nice bit of shine right in the center of that opening. So I'm just going to grab out the Misti again so we can stamp our sentiment. So I'm just going to center that so it's even left, right, top and bottom. Attach that to the front of our Misti. I'm just using my Onyx black ink from Versafine. Just going to give that a double stamp so we've got a nice impression. That really makes that pop with that bright yellow in the center. Then I'll be using the Postage Collage Stamps that go with the Postage Collage Dies just to add some kind of little stamping elements to our background. So I'm just going to pull out all the ones that I'll be using for this card. And because I wanted it to kind of be the background, not the main feature, I'm just using my Versafine smoky grey ink to go over the top of these so that they're not as bright as the other colours that everything else has been stamped. So I've got that one done up the top. Now I'm just going to pop a little one to the left here and do that again with the smoky grey. I did want to make sure you can see it, so I did do a double stamp of that. Then we'll do that kind of little postage mark again, just the one for that, give that a clean. And then I just want a little one to the right hand side here. So I did like the 3 so that it kind of brings your eye around the card. And then there's this little 50-cent stamp in there, so I'm just going to stamp that in the middle of this one. Got that done, and then we'll again just use that little postage mark just to go down the bottom of that. I have cut and scored a yellow card base, and I'm just going to have a little bit of a yellow border around, and then you'll also see it through those little punch holes through there. I popped some glue on the back of that panel, just line that up so that it's nice and centered. And this is the finished card for this tutorial. These mice are so adorable, and I think if you have a friend that loves cheese as much as I do, they'd absolutely adore a card like this. And using that Postage Collage Die and those Postage Collage stamps just adds such a sweet element to any card that you make using this set. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see any future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.